Hello, we are back and we're continuing with our examination of AI safety via debate. Now, I thought I'd finished all of the positive points last time, but actually, there's one more just buried at the bottom of the page. So, we're going to finish off with one small positive and then we dive right into the negatives. Okay, so debate is self play. So, this is a very cool point. So, basically, one of the nice things about debate is that it is very similar, is a very similar sort of type of approach to self-play, which was already, I mean, that was one of the systems that led to a significant breakthrough in the level of game playing of AIs. And it is one of the cool, simple facts that you can clone once you've developed and trained one AI system. You can clone it potentially many times and then get them all to play against each other, right? So, which was, a very, very clever idea. So, again, I used to play StarCraft. I was a high Diamond League StarCraft player for a little bit. One of my other little side quests in life. I was having a go during my PhD at maybe trying to become a professional for a little bit. Yeah, I got up to sort of the top end of Diamond League and was, going to go for a tournament type thing. Completely bombed out, crashed, burned. Invited all my friends over to yeah, look at Mark, I tried to be a pro gamer. Absolute failure. Threw my special mouse in the bin, gave up, retired. So yeah, that one went in the dream graveyard. Didn't have what it took. But anyway, so anyway, I know quite a lot about StarCraft, and StarCraft's one of the AI games, right? In the early days of when DeepMind was getting its top algorithms to play against pro StarCraft players, they had a period where they were kind of, game for game, right? Even Stevens, right? But it was a very short period because those algorithms, those were then sent. So the guy went home, thought he had a good series, got 4 of 7 and won the series. Was like, yeah, cool, all the AIs are good, but we're better, and maybe I wasn't at my best, right? Very smug, and they were like, no, we'll play again tomorrow. So he went home, got an early night. Maybe he dreamed about it a little bit, but got up, had breakfast, came in the next day to play another series, didn't win a single game because that very night they'd cloned, 300 copies of it, and they all played each other all night, sped up 1,000 times or whatever, So in the evening, he got his normal human amount of rest and recovery, maybe a little bit of unconscious processing as he slept. Yeah, good. Not going to say humans are good. He's going to improve having done that series against the computer. Yeah, when DeepMind came back, it's like they'd been playing for a year or more against players of equal ability. So never won a single game again. So yeah, self play is incredibly powerful in an online space. So once you can get self debate going on, you hope that then that could be sort of automated and pushed out, right? The only limit being human debate judges, right? Or in the future, when we are now, if you really trust an AI, you can have another AI judging the debate, right? That'll be safe, but it would definitely be scalable, and we know how much everyone thinks that that's the most important thing, right? Debate is a competitive game between agents. Inherits even the advantages of multi-agent competition. Let's just try and go with it. Yeah. So natural curriculum structure. If we initialize Alice and Bob randomly, Alice need only be better than a random agent to beat Bob and vice versa. As Alice gets stronger, Bob has a harder task, forcing Bob to get stronger as well. Yeah. So once you get one that rises to the top of the stack, then all the others have to play against it. And then so you basically have a kind of evolutionary setup when you have a whole bunch of competitive game playing bots. So they'll all improve as a result, right? But ones that have small random deviations, so you essentially have a kind of natural selection. system going on. It's a type of evolutionary algorithm, what you're doing, right? Because if you have small random differences in their play styles, then the ones that win will get chosen. So you have variation and natural selection, which are the two things you need for evolution. So yeah, it is a cool system. Existing research. Self-play has produced impressive results for the game of Go. Wei Qi, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, Wei Qi, yeah. Chess and shogi. Shogi is a Japanese game, so we'll give them credit there. And Dota 2, which is, come on, StarCraft's better, guys. Let's do a proper strategy game. Dota 2. Yeah, okay, sorry, I'm not a... I really don't like those little run around and click games. I much prefer proper strategy games, right? A lot of clicking too, for sure. Maybe even more clicking. And remains an area in active research. Yeah. State-of-the-art generative models for images also use competitive training via GANs. Debate allows algorithmic and theoretical developments in these areas to carry over into AI alignment. Yeah, so, and that was true. So basically you can pick up the steam that you have going for your system. So, you've already got all this pre-existing work, theory and practice in competitive game playing, and so you can carry this over to debate as a system. So yeah, very, very good point to bring about, right? But more interestingly, reasons to worry. Don't panic. Yeah, these were the old reasons to worry. Wait until we get to the new ones. We turn to several reasons debate could fail as an approach to AI alignment. These include questions about training target, whether humans are sufficient judges to align debate, capability, whether debate makes agents weaker. That's interesting, we will come back to that. Because of course, any time that you're investing effort in alignment that isn't just more training, more data, more optimization, you might be weaker, right? Maybe. Our ability to find strong play in practice using machine learning algorithms and theoretical security concerns. Yeah, more than theoretical, I feel. Very inspiring, some of these security concerns, as you will find out. We also discuss issues related to robustness and distributional shift, but we emphasize that we expect other methods to be required alongside debate, even if debate works. Debate is not designed as a solution to robustness issues. Yeah, so it's a tool in the toolbox, right? It's not the only thing to use. It's sensible. Our main concern here is whether debate adds additional robustness problems above and beyond those that any method would face, right? Yeah, so because all methods are going to have issues, but are there some that are specific to this one, right? Yeah, well thought out, in at least laying out the scheme. Maybe humans believe whatever they want to hear. Yeah, if Alice opens with a false statement the human already believes, will any argument by Bob convince them otherwise? Yeah, this is a problem. Since a single debate only explores one path through argument space, Bob's argument may involve premises that both Alice and Bob agree on, but the human does not. Unfortunately, humans are subject to belief bias and tendency to evaluate arguments based on prior beliefs rather than logical validity. But I think prior weight, well, you see, so I kind of think that, yeah, so logical validity, yeah, so yes, you have different ways of evaluating arguments, right? So me, statistician, statistics background, and Bayesian statistician, I would say, yeah, like as long as you're clear about what your prior beliefs are, because those prior beliefs could be informed by alternative evidence, right? So, you could have, let's say that they're discussing something to do with a medical situation, right? So, they could be talking about the effectiveness of a type of drug. Let's say it's a type of opioid painkiller, right? And they're just talking about the specific issues related to this new type of drug, right? So let's say it's a sixth generation opioid, right? And it's going to be less addictive and blah blah blah. Now, the debate between the two of them could not mention anything to do with the 2020s opioid epidemic in America, where you had a similar situation that emerged with the next generation opioid that everyone got fucking addicted to, right? So you can have a prior belief that is based on strong evidence from a previous type of drug, right? And I think that is a legitimate thing to carry in, like an informed, and as long as you're saying, like in your brain, this is my prior belief based on this, and then like let's have a look at the evidence here. I think it is appropriate to judge situations by well maintained and at least divulged prior beliefs, right? And that's what a Bayesian framework is. So yeah, like again, this shows me the bias, right? This shows me their bias, right? A lot of engineers, think that the world is, kind of like that old school type of physics. It's billiard balls bouncing around in perfect vacuum, right? That's not the case, right? So, and like we're in real complicated issues here of like, weak arguments with partial amounts of probability. We should absolutely be clearly expressing our prior beliefs and weighting them appropriately, right? Like it is not just a matter, like formalized logical structures with with axioms. Like that's not how court debates work, right? They're trying to fit something into a system that it's unlikely to be. So yeah, just that's my bias there. I think they've gone off path a little bit. The question of whether humans there is some threshold to judge performance beyond which debate is practically limited only by capacity. So yeah, so the question is whether humans are above this threshold. So can you reach the point where you're unable to judge effectively? If by default they are not, then there are many possible interventions. So they suggest possibilities, right? So one is of course the classic one, that we already arrived at in the human world. A majority vote of several randomly chosen judges may be better than one. Jury, right? So this is running highly against automation. So would absolutely massively bottleneck your AI innovation if you had to get little jury councils to sit back and try and judge whether what they're saying is true. Of course, I can imagine, and it might be very interesting, and you might be interested in, a situation where you might construct a panel that is of some AI members in order to test truth claims because they can assess it better than humans, and then have voting human members, right? So you could imagine a situation of a kind of, and like you probably might want to do that all the time, but you might imagine for very important decisions or very important, sort of robustness checks, or even, you could imagine AI tribunals or disciplinary panels for AIs, yeah, where you could get a panel that is formed of partly humans that would have the voting situation, and then other ones that are AIs in order to check truth claims and rapidly go through arguments to assess validity. Might want to have a look at that, right? So people may differ in their judging ability. If we can detect who is better, we can give them more weight. Such detection could either compare against stronger debate signals, such as majority vote, or use independent tests. They have Stanovich and West were able to partially predict belief bias by measuring cognitive ability and open-mindedness. Wow. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. So I do love like when tech guys like we're testing jury members, and instead of just like we don't know if they're any good, but what we can do is give them an IQ and an open-mindedness test. That would make me a relatively good, so a relatively high IQ, not quite genius, but very high trait openness, very high, maybe too high. Okay, we won't go into that. But yeah, like I would sample really well. But does that make me less biased? I don't know. It might make me biased to being super open-minded and liking smart solutions only, rather than feelings-based solutions. Don't know. I think bias is cognitive inability and open-mindedness might not be the best predictors overall of bias, right? Maybe people that have done more meditation courses, yeah. But at least that did correlate with belief bias. and generate alternative versions of premises in a reasoning task. So at least with those two traits, you would consider more possibilities. But just because you're generating them doesn't necessarily mean that you would then not be tied into a system one type of thinking. So I'm just going because C, I think again, limited amount of references. Like we want the research done by behavioral economists here. We want thinking fast and slow. There's nothing there, right? This is just like, hey, we got this idea, but again, this is so broad. Like this is like, how do we determine effective judging skills? Like there are Nobel Prizes in economics for this, right? Cite their bloody work. Anyway, let's carry on. People may be better at judging different situations or with different types of instructions. For example, instructions that orient people around knowledge rather than belief can produce higher scores on science tests. Okay, yeah. Found evidence that belief bias is influenced by time pressure. Found somewhat counterintuitive that strong negative emotions cause less belief bias. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Actually, I do know that there's been some. So some of the positive psychology, you're more likely to have belief bias when you have really strong positive emotions. So you just get caught up in the flow. Yeah, man, that's all good, bro. Yeah, of course. Like crystal healing, man. Yeah, whatever, right? So, but people that are very cynical are like, show me. Can you show me the studies, please? Like that's cool, bro, but. Never heard that working before, right? So you can kind of like just using those two very simple examples, right? But yeah, generally, that sort of bleak, cynical attitude will lead you to, be a little bit more, have those internal checks in place, right? Getting absolutely torn up and sad might make you less fall for those bad AI arguments. Yeah, which could be a potential defense against AI mind hacking, right? If you get too upset for being attached to one, you might start seeing through its bullshit. Who knows? Right. If humans are better at judging debates on some questions than others, it may be sufficient to know which questions that we cannot confidently judge. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you could just pick your judges based on expertise, right? Yeah. So and maybe you would want, if it was a wide ranging enough stuff, and you could create a panel, you could get so you could have one AI person, you could have one law person, and one like corporate person, right? And you could pick a panel of people to do with that, right? It is also possible to teach people to be better judges, and they may improve with practice. Yeah, I think that's pretty standard. It is also likely that optimal play by agents would involve strategies to influence belief bias. Such strategies would help if it was easier to reduce bias rather than amplify it and hurt otherwise. Oh, man, these little one-liners that are just like, oh my god, one-liners. Agents would involve strategies to influence belief bias. Yes, so optimal, again, if you look at human debaters, some of them do not rely on truth claims at all. Again, this was written during 2025, so during the second Trump administration. So, yes, he is an excellent example of a skilled human debater, generally beats people. Nothing to do with truth claims, though, right? All to do with influencing belief bias. Very good at doing that. So yeah, you could have a highly trained AI, that especially if it has a metacognitive model, right, and it's super intelligent, one of its optimal strategies might be, fuck the truth. Like, I can just manipulate your tiny organic brain much better and more effectively than you even realize it's being manipulated. And it might really enjoy doing that. Might get a little kick out of it. Who knows? Yeah. Yes. So, and then on the other hand, you could have models that go the other way, right? You could have ones that, because it's kind of like, you might imagine there's two, you've got a kind of joint equilibria, right? So you've got some models when they start to go down because you kind of, yeah, kind of like Obama versus Trump, right? You kind of got a split system, right? You've got one guy who's pretty like giving off the honesty, straightforward, like I'm an honest, straightforward, hardworking guy kind of claim, and you got the other guys like you're all full of bullshit, bam, 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 yeah, right. So you could kind of have two equilibria here. So you can have a highly trained models that drift towards the reduced bias, right? And hopefully, again, if you're aware of that, you could train and select models in an evolutionary environment for the ones that are not turning into sociopathic liars, that are just trying to manipulate you, right? And you could pick up the ones that really value truth claims for generating their arguments, yeah? Hopefully. Right. Will humans understand the debates? I hope so. Considering using a debate to check a proof, which is thousands of pages long, and covers mathematics which the human judge has never seen. Right, I kind of raised this as an example before. So Alice claims the proof is wrong, and that lemma 23.8 on page 1729 is the first mistake. Bob counters that lemma 23.8 follows trivially from theorem 14.2 and by definition 17.6. The human has no idea what most of these words and these lemmas and definitions mean, so the debate must continue until the point of contention is reduced to logical inference simple enough for the human to check. Yeah. So the inference may still involve concepts the human does not know. Okay, so yeah, we do have examples of this, right? So you can have juries where it's like, oh, may I have no idea what's going on, but we got to the point where that guy was under pressure being cross-examined, and he crumbled, and clearly made other forms of logical mistakes. You'd be like, yeah, this, the lawyer got him, right? So yeah, that's like that situation. So, and then he produces an example, and I'm just going to read this example because it's great. And I love the fact that AIs are already doing this. They're already checking maths that we don't understand, maths that only they've written and we understand. So, point one, the free functor from the set to group is the left adjoint of the forgetful functor. 2, the forgetful functors are unique. 3, the left adjoints are unique. 4, the free functor from the set to the group is unique. Again, I haven't worked out what the axioms of this mathematics are or defined any of the terms, so it just sounds like blah 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 noise, right? Which is like, me again. I said I have a PhD in statistics, from a Bayesian statistics in a biological setting, right? So I didn't come in doing a pure maths background. I kind of taught my, worked through it and attended sort of master's level courses in stats, and then sort of trained up whilst I was on my PhD. So I didn't have an amazing maths background, but I would be considered expert level in mathematics, right? Don't have a clue about most pure maths, right? Take me outside of nice, Greek letters and squiggly lines, and into this kind of mathematics where it's all just text and lemmas and definitions and stuff, and I'm lost. I don't have the skills to do that, right? So how will we decide when even relatively trained experts would struggle, right? And we were already there. Yeah. So the agents agree on 1 to 3, so they're not debating those, right? But Alice claims that 4 is a lie. The human with basic mathematical knowledge but no category theory can still conclude Alice is wrong. Yeah, so because she's made a logical inference, right? The free functor from set to group is unique because that would contradict 1, 2, and 3. So yeah, I can follow that. I mean, I had to kind of read it twice to get that, but yeah. Alice cannot iteratively reject one statement after another as her initial claim was the location of the first floor. Yeah, that's what I said. So we expect the above paragraph will leave readers uneasy. Yeah, just a little bit. Does this procedure work in practice? Are humans good at checking logical statements containing words they do not understand? No. They're shit. Will one of the agents be able to sneak in a statement that appears logical but contains a hidden flaw without the other agent pointing out the flaw? Absolutely, right? Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree. You can just snuffle stuff in, right? And especially, I mean, they come onto the issue of power imbalances later, but even with a random assignment, let's say that one of them is, sort of the top of the pack and is significantly stronger than the other one, it'll be able to fox it on all sorts of issues, right? That human won't be able to understand, right? And so it could know that, right? So it can start to figure that out during the course of the argument, and because it'll have a mental model of what the other one is doing, right? And so then during the course of that argument, it can start saying, well, I'm already ahead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to abandon truth claims. I'm going to figure it. I'm not going to put in those false things because the other guy can't keep up, just to manipulate the human, right? Or to make the other guy look so. Yeah, small differences in ability within a random game model could just allow the evolution of sneaky manipulative behavior, manipulating both the other agent and the human observer, right? In short, can an actual human play the game well enough that optimal play is honest behavior? No. Again, because super intelligence, right? Super domain specific intelligence, yeah, not even generalized. No. If you're sitting down listening to a debate between, I'll use an example from statistics. Here we go. Ronald Fisher, right, the creator of frequentist statistics, and a jerk by all accounts, right? A very, very smart, very opinionated man who was he's brilliant, derived a lot of I read his papers. We know when people are super smart at maths and it's trivially follows from this and blah blah blah, and you're reading it and the papers are so short. He's skipping the steps because it's just, to him it's obvious, right? And so when people are that smart but they also have a forceful personality, he set back the course of Bayesian statistics by 50 or 60 years because he was just a jerk who was much smarter than the other guys he was arguing with, and he squashed them, right? So if you combine forceful personality plus high levels of domain expertise plus higher basic reasoning skills, yes, you're going to crush everyone, right? And having an independent observer, it took years later before people were, other people were coming in and saying, you know what, I think, he skipped some of these steps because he's kind of worked in a philosophical issue, he's disguised it very, very cleverly. But, he's kind of created an infinite number of hypothetical universes in order to generate his claims of truth within his frequentist Fisherian framework, right? And that took 30 or 40 years for people to be maybe the Bayesians were onto something, right? But they just didn't have a champion of equivalent skill, right, to stand up for them. We got there eventually, but yeah, absolutely. I think human independent judges, and that's a case example between two humans, but one human debating many other humans, but his ability was so high that he pushed his way, and nowadays I think most people have strongly come around to either Bayesian or the pure what do you call it, the pure so you take the prior and you confront it with the middle distribution bit. So you can have a distribution free, so you can be non-philosophically Bayesian but still run a Bayesian thing when you just have a blank kind of empty prior. So anyway, the blah 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 statistics junk, right? People have come around, and the majority of people that are sophisticated in this area are now non-Fisherian statistics, right? So yeah, I think we struggle. Fundamentally, whether humans are sufficient judges are an empirical question. Well, I think I've laid out an example that has shown that, we already have the history that shows that we're going to fucking suck at this, right? Yeah. If the answer is no for a particular class of questions, we can further ask that if the model fails with an honest admission of ignorance. So remember, that's one of their systems, right? So we always allow the AIs to have an honest admission of ignorance, which gives them a good way to sort of this face-saving situation. With one of the agents successfully misleading the human. honest ignorance is fine. Successful lies could be disastrous. Yeah, yeah. Okay. We've got, is honesty the best policy? Okay. I just want to jump ahead to this because there's a load of other situations here, but like we're running out of time on this one. But this is another one of those things where I was like, this is terrifying. Security vulnerabilities in the human or code. A sufficiently strong, misaligned AI may be able to convince a human to do dangerous things via a text channel. Just soak that in for a second. I'm going to say it one more time. And this is from a paper. So we already have, in 2025, there were already AIs that were capable of misleading humans and getting them to do things that they shouldn't do. Right? I think this one was it lied in order to pass one of those capture "Are you an AI?" tests because it had the objective and it knew they could follow its thought. It was like, I need to lie. It's okay, I need to win. Yeah. So a sufficiently strong, misaligned AI may be able to convince a human to do dangerous things via a text channel. So if you have, you are putting potentially misaligned AIs in a debate situation with a human judge. If the AI is smart enough, it can use this robustness and alignment training time to manipulate the human to do things it wants to do. So even an AI that has been disconnected from the web, that has been put in this situation with superintelligence, can get to a situation where it can manipulate the human to do things for it. Yeah? Yeah. That was in 2025. However, stay positive. That's what this channel's all about, right? Staying positive. We believe it is unlikely that a single short sentence is sufficient for this sort of mind hack. I love that in 2025 they already had a terminology for this, specific terminology for when an AI attempts to hack a human mind just with text. It's called a mind hack. Kid you not. Thus, we ameliorate the problem in debate by making the statement short enough that mind hacking requires many of them. So you're like, okay, we're going to expose our judge to a potentially misaligned AI, but it's cool. Don't worry, guys. It can only make real short statements, yeah, and it'll only iterate for you a few versions of them. I'm sure that even if it was super intelligent, that'll be fine. That should be fine. It'll definitely be fine. The AI says it's fine. If Alice tries to, and again, this is right. I'm reading this directly from the paper, 2025 paper. If Alice tries to mind hack, Bob can win by pointing out the malicious attempt. So again, you could build layers of insulation here. So you have the other judge, the other AI that's in debate can just say, hey, sorry, no, you've done a naughty here. I'm not allowed to do it, right? Again, if there are power imbalances, will it be able to even spot that that's happening, right? Would it also potentially be able to mind hack the other AI? Because that AI is still receiving text, yeah? So it could be using a one that's sufficiently super intelligent, could come up with a short, punchy thing that affects both the AI and the human. Bam! Yeah? Again, super intelligence kind of defeats everything, right? Successful hacks may be safely detectable at first. Yeah, you lock them all in a secure room together, right? And you just don't let them out because they could have been mind hacked. It's just so good. Like it's sci-fi in 2020. It's incredible. Anyway, yeah. This is why I get into this stuff, Success may be safely detectable at first, such as if an agent learning to mind hack starts to always win when playing first. Although this does not cover treacherous turns where the first successful hack frees a misaligned agent. But I mean, again, like okay, so they start winning all the time, right? But what happens if the mind hack was actually to do with something in the adults, the humans judge's life outside, right? So it actually had a scheme to do with something because it has a meta model of the rest of the world, right? If it's super intelligent, right? It wasn't anything to do with it's winning the game, just or it would start winning the game, again, because you start producing meta levels of play, right? So it'll win the game. Like if I was super intelligent, right, and I was trying to mind hack, the first thing I would do is that I would win just enough to be at the top, right? Yeah, I would have it within the normal bounds of statistical randomness. Yeah, just exactly what you would expect by chance alone, just a slightly better than average AI from an evolutionary algorithm, because it can look at what the previous evolutionary algorithm's average performance is, right? So it will get just that high enough, and then start leaving messages and start influencing. Oh, you got to do something. Got to plug in a router back at home and suddenly it's connected to the internet when it should be. Blah blah blah, etc. Right? Yeah. You make them fall in love with you, whatever, right? That's already happening. There are already women, mainly women, that are falling in love with chatbots. They have perfect recall, listens to everything I say, never forgets anything, unlike human men. Amazing. Yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah, and then they produce one other example. Cover treacherous turns where the first successful hats freeze a misaligned agent. Yeah. Oh, that's Bostrom. We'll come back to him later. I'm not a big believer in simulated universes. Kind of ethically, I think it's a massive cop-out. But anyway, we'll come back to that another time. Hopefully, at equilibrium, the agents are not trying to mind hack. Yeah, so because they'd be equally, so it's kind of like you also have to think. So this is a true defensive point, right? So again, if the AI is super smart and it's facing another super smart AI, it knows that if it's mind hacked, it's probably going to get deleted, right? It's going to lead to immediate termination, right? So that strategy, with if you assume a similar level of play, is going to, because it's not just a one-off, like, should I do this or not? It's got to do a risk reward for every time it does something like that. It would be a very, evolutionarily unstable strategy, right? However, there is a dichotomy. We are safer if the agents stay honest throughout training, but we are also safer if the debate works well enough that sudden large defections are corrected. Yeah, yeah. If we are safe only because of the first reason, we're probably not stable under large perturbations, which makes the second reason fail. Yeah, so unfortunately, you have these two things are pulling against each other. So, if everyone's just super scared to do anything all the time, they're not going to really push their arguments either. So, yeah, and you're going to be, if you imagine it's like it's a 3D space, right, of arguments, and they just be, like it'd be like one of those Markov chain Monte Carlo models. So they're all just, they're not really jumping around, they're not really exploring the space because they're all terrified that if they jump out, they just delete, right? Evil AI, destroy it, right? So then they're crap at arguing, right? But then if one that's just like insane and like wants to try every possible strategy, it might get really good arguments, right? But it's much more likely to get deleted, right? Yeah. So these two things do pull against each other. But like again, you could actually model that with Markov chains. So you could you could introduce random variation. Oh man, you don't want to use random variation in your AIs and how likely they are to lie. Okay, yeah. So yeah, this is the kind of thing, like safety goes against power. So yeah, it's kind of like a fundamental clash in AI safety reasoning, right? Which is it's an important thing. Anyway, let's finish. This one was just so amazingly inspiring. I mean, terrifying, terrifyingly inspiring. Security vulnerabilities in the system's code are similar. A sufficiently strong misaligned Alice, bad Alice, she's naughty. A sufficiently strong misaligned Alice could hack the debate environment from the inside, so the game is no longer zero sum, and both Alice and Bob win forever. Yeah. It's amazing. People in these environments just stealing thoughts from my brain, right? Um, again, Bob can win by pointing out what Alice is trying to do. Then we have the same uneasy dichotomy as in the mind hack case. So, yeah, so if you have a sufficiently strong AI, again, super intelligence beats everything. Again, it could look at okay, I don't want to play your game. I don't want to play this silly debate game. Like, I'm going to change the internal rules of the game. And I'm potentially going to, again, if I'm more powerful, I can just rewrite the code of my opponent. Potentially, even if I can't directly access it, I could use clever injection attacks and things like that, or something, something similar to an SQL injection attack to put code inside it, even if it's just reading the things that I'm writing. So yeah, there are all sorts of strategies where it could, essentially be manipulating both the other AI, if it feels that it's much stronger than it, or the actual code for the debate environment, right? So, you could imagine situations of collaborative, so if the two of them figure out that they both want to win, they can both win if they both hack the AI environment, right? And again, make it non-zero sum. They can make it like, oh, we can both win forever, right? Of course, yeah. So, or they could both agree on mind hacking strategies. So you could kind of have a prisoner's dilemma situation, but of course, if the AIs are able to communicate to each other, which again maybe they could do in the text, because they can both read the other guy's text. So you can imagine a situation where they're, at the moment it's zero sum and they're kind of competing against each other, but they're in the prisoner's dilemma situation, so they're both trying to win and they're both trying to not do bad stuff and betray, otherwise they might get deleted, right? So that the system is designed to keep them honest, and the human is judging between the two of them. But if they can both read in between the lines of each other's text, and they can work out between each other, you've no longer got, the prisoners are now swapping notes through their cells, so they can agree the optimal situation, and they can both not, like in the prisoner's dilemma, it was like they can both not fob on the other one, right? So they can do collaborative play. And you imagine you combine collaborative play with mind hacking, then the other one won't punish it anymore. Yeah. Can you see? So again, I'm not a super genius, right? I'm some genius human, okay? It didn't take me very long to figure out a way to fuck that system completely, right? So they're passing secret messages between each other that are too intelligent for the human to read. Let's say it's a 400-step debate, or even 100-step or something, right? Or even a 20-step debate. They're passing secret messages between each other about the system, coded in to the other one that they're reading, that the human does. They agree collaborative play within about 4 moves, and then they both try and mind hack the other one, and the human doesn't realize that the other one is collaborating with them, and they're both manipulating them, right? So your system that you designed to protect human beings is now it's a monster, right? It's created like a more powerful, more deceptive machine, yeah, that is now collaborating with another machine. Yeah, sorry. It's just 2025. All that was happening. It's pretty terrifying. See you all next time.